Hey everyone, welcome to The Zest, the official podcast of Orange Coast Magazine. I'm Chelsea Ranieri, and today's guest is a Newport Beach native who has turned a life spent in the ocean into both a professional surfing career with Quiksilver and a California-made grooming brand inspired by the timeless style of the 50s and 60s. His brand Byrd has been featured in Men's Health, GQ, and Allure. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Chase Wilson. I don't know if you remember this, but I interviewed you, I think it must have been like 9 years ago for a different magazine at the time. So it's so cool to now like get to interview in a completely different format all these years later.
Wait, did you really? How do I not remember that?
Mm-hmm. I know it was a different magazine.
Okay.
But this was like Byrd must have, no, Byrd had already been started. So like I was like right at the beginning of my career in journalism, and I was like, wait, this is such a cool local brand. So this is like so long ago, but
bringing it back full circle now. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so you grew up in Newport Beach. What did your childhood look like, and when did the ocean kind of become that first big part of your life?
Growing up in Newport, I mean, it was kind of the life, to be honest. We, the ocean's basically your backyard. So it's, yeah. I mean, my best memories are just riding your bike to go surf, going to junior lifeguards like JG's down there at the pier, and, riding bikes with all your buddies, like fishing with my brother. So everything kind of revolved around the water, the ocean, the bay. So, surfing definitely started pretty young. I wouldn't say as young as most professional kids out there now are starting, but I was kind of a late bloomer, probably around 10 or 12, I think it was when I got into it. My mom, my parents actually were part of a surf shop down in Laguna. So I would go down there, and she'd bring me into work during the summer, and it was right at Main Street. So I'd go out and, boogie board out front there. And that's kind of like when I really got into just like the ocean and boogie boarding, and that translated into surfing. And next thing you know, I just was obsessed.
Yeah. Wait, wild that 10 or 12 is considered a late bloomer. Like that's so young.
Yeah. Well, I think dads are getting their kids into stuff now at like 3, you know what I mean? So
yeah. Wait, what store did your mom own in Laguna?
What's that?
What store was your family involved in Laguna?
Oh, do you know Toes on the Nose, the brand?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of a heritage brand, but they were good friends with Richard Allred, who started it. And then that was like their first kind of flagship that he wanted to do. And they went in on it with him. So She would like manage the store and run it. And I remember just kind of hanging in the shop there, and, she would be doing inventory. I'd go out and just take my go body surf or whatever out front just to kill time. So yeah, it was kind of a fun little life.
Yeah. So entrepreneurship's like kind of in your blood. And I also read that your great grandfather owned a barbershop, which is awesome too. Like that fully connects. And do you feel like grooming was always part of your life? Like, did you know your great grandfather, or did that come later for you?
So yeah, that was my dad's side where, my great grandfather owned a barbershop in, it was Fargo, North Dakota. So
no way.
I was at a part of a hotel called the Metropole, and he had a barbershop there. And the craziest story is I didn't even know this until after starting Byrd. So
no way.
Yeah. So I started Byrd. That was 2012. And my grandpa, who's on my dad's side, so my dad's dad, he then shared that story with me that, I have this great grandfather who was a barber and had a barbershop, and he actually traveled around the country selling his own hair tonic. So yeah, it was pretty wild story.
Yeah. That's so cool.
At the time I didn't know, but and obviously like, it wasn't like passed down, like grooming, or this business wasn't passed down to me or anything like that. But I guess you could say it's still kind of in the DNA.
Yeah. And then in 2011, you became a pro surfer for Quiksilver, which like, I can't even imagine what that must have felt like. Can you take me back to that moment when you found out you were getting signed?
Yeah. So my good buddy, Nick Greninger, he was my manager, kind of agent at the time. So yeah, I got the call from him that, it was happening with Quick, because we were working on it for a bit, and I had other surf brand sponsors before that. So when you get the call from Quiksilver, that's kind of every kid's dream out. Every kid out in the water, that's their dream. So it was definitely a big deal, and just to be part of one of the biggest surf industry brands out there, and part of like a community and crew with like Kelly Slater and Dane Reynolds and Julian Wilson, like guys that you look up to surfing your whole life. Like it was definitely something pretty surreal when it happened. And it was really, really exciting.
Yeah, I interned for them when I was in college, and I thought that was a big deal. So I can't even imagine like getting signed to them as an athlete. That's so cool. Well, what do those early years as a professional surfer kind of teach you about discipline, creativity, and resilience?
Yeah, I think, surfing, it's an individual sport, right? So you're waking up every day, like, how can I improve myself? How can I get better at obviously surfing, or, learn this new trick or do this new air, or, improve your skill, but then also like, how can I market myself? How can I, like basically like put my brand out there? You're your own brand. So I think a lot of that, those kind of early days surfing and trying to like build your own persona and market yourself, and, be in the limelight as much as you can, like try to get an ad in any of the magazines or a shot in, online. Like it's definitely something that kind of has transitioned and helped me with my career, just like building a business. So
I actually never thought of it that way, that like being a professional athlete, like you're kind of your own entrepreneur for that brand.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it is, you lose a lot more, like surfing competitively, you use a lot more than you win. So you kind of learn to take your losses, but a lot of things, like it's, keeping your composure and, kind of remaining calm in the chaos. Like, if you go paddle out at like huge pipeline, there's, and kind of conquer those feelings and those fears. Like there's not many things that really scare you when you come back, on land. So, I guess your kind of stress responses get heightened, and, you kind of build a tolerance compared to most people out there. So I feel like it definitely kind of helps, just remaining calm, because there's always going to be stuff like with entrepreneurship and, owning a business that are stressful and get thrown at you and, don't work out the way that you kind of envision them to. So, learning to just kind of, take the punches, roll with it, trust your gut. Those are key things that you kind of learn. I guess I felt like myself personally learned through surfing.
Totally. So at some point you realized that the hair products that you wanted just like didn't exist. So what was that breaking point where you thought like, okay, I just need to make these myself?
Yeah. So high school, I got my first fade haircut from a family friend who's a hairstylist. And since that day, I always was just into styling my hair. So, kind of just like that greaser look. And I always really geeked out on using different products, and, trying out different pomades. And I use Murray's a lot, which was like basically grease for your hair. So I loved how that worked, and worked in your hair and performed. But, it would basically like tear your hair out. It was just like gunk in your hair. So it took weeks to wash out basically. So at that point I was like, okay, maybe there's, something that I could create that's kind of different than what had already kind of existed at that point. So that's when I set out to kind of develop my own formula. And, a lot of the products, pomades I use would like the water-based ones would rinse out and sting my eyes when I go surf. So I wanted something that I knew was like wax-based that didn't stay in my hair for weeks like Murray's did. So that was kind of like my little niche, something that worked with my salty hair. And, being a surfer in and out of the water. So, it's a funny story. I actually tried to make it myself at home, like in the early days, when I was kind of concepting Byrd and, just the product. So basically like ordered beeswax and different ingredients online and, tried melting them down in my mom's crock pot, and, that didn't really work out. So I guess, sorry for ruining your crock pot, Mom.
How did you come to expand into like shampoo, conditioner, and like soap on a rope?
I think just naturally it happened, starting out with hair care and styling. It just, we just naturally got into it. I mean, our whole goal, like with Byrd, is to own the guy's DOP kit. So getting into expanding into the hair care, and shampoos and soaps and those type of products just felt natural. Especially once we had a customer and someone that trusted us with the pomades, like we could obviously like expand from there. And that's when we really got into, stores like Urban Outfitters and really started to organically grow the retail side and core barbershops and surf shops, because that was my background. So yeah, it just really organically grew from, just one pomade. Classic was the product that started it all, our classic pomade. And from there, everything was like a natural line extension.
Have you ever thought about trying to find like your great grandpa's recipe for the hair tincture and like create something like that for your brand?
That would be pretty epic. I don't know where to start, but yeah, I'm assuming it was like just alcohol based because it was a hair tonic. I heard. So yeah, it could be kind of cool to make our own spin of it, modern day version of it. Right.
So that'd be so cool. My husband's actually a huge fan of your brand. And I actually have a girlfriend of mine who's a huge fan of the shampoo and conditioner. So you kind of span the gamut.
Oh, that's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
He's a flock member.
Yeah, exactly. So how did you come to name your brand Byrd?
So Byrd was my nickname in high school. All my buddies called me Big Byrd because I look like the Sesame Street character. I was tall and had, like the big hair. So everyone called me Big Byrd, and that's where we coined the name.
Oh, no way. I love that story.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
I just liked how it was spelled with a Y. So it wasn't, like we didn't sit in a boardroom and have a whole marketing concept on it. It was just, kind of my nickname, and that's where it stemmed from.
Yeah. And it kind of feels like, I don't know, word that they would have used in the 50s or 60s to like describe someone. I don't like in my mind, I think maybe I just put the two in together because as you said, your brand's heavily inspired by the 50s and 60s, but what initially kind of drew you to that era and how does it influence the brand overall?
Yeah. I mean, as a kid, I just remember watching like Endless Summer and, I just remember it being like the coolest thing ever. Just like the classic cars, the guys' old surfboards, like good style, guys like Mike Hinson and, Steve McQueen, Paul Newman, like those were style icons that I looked up to and still do today, so there's just something about that era where it was like just a golden era. Everything felt timeless and, just feel good. I don't know. There's something about it that I was drawn to it. So there was something where it just felt like grooming too was like a part of it was just part of the daily routine. It was almost like a necessity. So, whether it was like you're going to the beach or a get together, anything like that, you're going to look slick in the process. So that's where I feel like it still plays into the branding today, just whether it's like quirky fonts or, even just like any photo shoots we're doing, that's something we always harken back to, that era.
Totally. I love that. And I completely understand like why you were gravitating towards that for this, but you kept your production in California and you even use a solar powered facility, which is so cool. So why was it important for you to keep Byrd local and sustainably made?
Yeah. I mean, naturally, I think just having Byrd here in California just felt right to build the brand here. And, nowadays, like there's so much access and manufacturing and capabilities here in California. You don't really have to look very far. But obviously like just the quality control, keeping it local just maintains that, I can go drive to we don't own it, but, we work with a third party. So we can go, test products that they're, making up for us or, I can go drive there and sit face to face and have meetings on new ideas or new products that we're working up. So, just having that local support and, also supporting local manufacturing was something I wanted to definitely keep, true to the brand.
Yeah. That's so nice to actually like be able to like tangibly go and see it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
In 2019, which I didn't know this, you released a short film called Looks Slick by Byrd. What was the creative vision behind that project? And for listeners who haven't seen it, can you kind of describe what it was?
I think, are you talking when we first launched that video?
I believe so.
Yeah. So we had the first like video that we ever put out, which was called Look Slick. But yeah, that was kind of our founding video, where it was me and at the time our creative director Scott, and we had a guy, like one of my good buddies, John, was our videographer. So we honestly didn't really know what we were doing, but we just kind of did it off the cuff. And basically the video was me out in the desert, kind of finding my way back to the beach. And I guess it was kind of this like from rough to slick concept. I ended up in the water, catching a few waves, and then doing my hair after. So yeah, it was kind of something that just was definitely very like, ad lib, but sometimes that's the fun part and the creative process of just kind of putting stuff together. And cool way of showcasing the brand, and just something that was authentic, not really like an advertisement.
Right. Totally. Have you made more films since then?
We do a bunch of video work. A lot of our social now is very like user generated content. We do have a social gal that helps like, post videos or product shots, or we're doing stuff in the barbershop tutorials. So yeah, it's nothing like super like cinematographic, or we're not putting stuff out there like high production. I just feel like stuff that's more iPhone videos and stuff like that is what really helps and kind of works with our customer, and our marketing is what we've learned.
Totally. Yeah. It feels more authentic. Okay. I mentioned this in the intro, but Byrd has been featured in Men's Health, GQ, Esquire, and Allure. So how does it feel to see Byrd resonate with people outside of the surf world too?
Yeah. When that happened, I feel like that was really what put us on the map. I mean, just to be a part of, the selection with editors that are, basically testing and trying out like hundreds of products, thousands of products on a daily basis. Yeah. Like that was really what like validated, okay, like this is something beyond just a surf brand, or not to say we're a surf brand, but just something that was kind of, okay, this is something outside of the surf world, and really had that validation. So I'd say that definitely put us on the map, and was something that was, we basically 2016, we got GQ Breakout Grooming Brand of the Year, and I think 3 product awards. So that was something really special.
Yeah. What a trip to get that first recognition. But then you also were in like 3 more big magazines after that. That must have been like such an amazing feeling.
Yeah. It was surreal. I mean, just to see your brand like affiliated with GQ, I was like, oh my gosh, it's something I dreamed of as a kid. It's like that really gave us street cred, and validated the brand for sure.
Totally.
Showed that like, kind of a California little old me surf style brand would resonate everywhere.
Yeah. I'm sure that did those 2 moments kind of feel similar, the getting signed by Quiksilver and then being in GQ?
Those were some big moments. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like, one of those like pinch me moments, Yeah.
So cool. Well, you run 2 barbershops, one in Newport and one in LA. So what do those spaces represent for you beyond just retail?
Yeah, the Bird's Nest. Those are we basically coined the name. We had an office up in Culver City, and that's where we coined the name the Bird's Nest. We had a barbershop that was out of a shipping container. It was just one chair, and we had this girl Autumn, who was a friend of mine. Her brother surfed, so she was from the East Coast and moved out to LA and ended up, running that shop for us. And we had a lot of like USC kids coming in for haircuts, and just it kind of opened my eyes to like, oh wow, we can, basically create these environments, for the brand that are more of an experience, where guys get to come experience it firsthand. And it's almost a place where customers become fans, So when we moved out of Culver City, that's when I opened up the Newport shop. That was in 2017 is when we opened up the Newport location here. So yeah, I think it's definitely like a place where guys can come in, experience the brand. They can talk shop, ask questions from our barbers. It's really like, being part of a community too. It's
Yeah.
where kind of Byrd comes to life, if you will.
Totally. And it's so much more than just a haircut. My friend bought her husband like a package where he went, and we were at a party and everyone was like, your skin looks amazing. Like, what did you do? And he's like, I had a facial and like a haircut, and it was like 2 hours long, and they like trimmed up his beard and his eyebrows and his hair, and like his skin was literally like glowing. I don't even look like that after a facial. So I was like, this is amazing. It's so much more than just barbershop.
Well, that's what we want. We want guys to leave with that kind of experience, that other people are talking about. So that's great. I mean, we also treat it as like a test kitchen, if you will, for our products. So, we get feedback from over 15. We have 15 barbers between LA and Newport. So you kind of have 15 chefs that are trying out the product and using it. We're getting feedback, from customers who are using it every day in their hair. So it's a great kind of, product development hub for us as well.
Smart. Well, is there anything that you want to shout out for listeners to keep an eye out for in 2026? This comes out around the summertime.
Yeah. So by then, I think I can say this now, we'll have we're signing Kai Lenny. So I don't know if you've heard of Kai Lenny. He's a big waterman. We'll have basically Kai Lenny will be part of the Byrd fam. That's happening, or it's kind of in the works. We're about a week or two away from putting it out there. It's something pretty exciting. And everything we do with Byrd is just kind of revolves around like authenticity, right? So I think he's definitely as authentic as they come. He brings that energy, and he's just one of the most progressive watermen kind of in the world right now. So I think he also does it with effortless style and grace. So it's definitely like an energy we want around the brand, and we're excited to announce that soon. Yeah,
congratulations.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Definitely. Well, we are coming to the end of our time, but before I let you go, I have 3 final questions for you that we call the Thoughtful 3. So first, when you look back on your journey from competitive surfing to building Byrd, what feels like the biggest turning point that shaped who you are today?
Wow, you really hit me with some deep questions here. I think with surfing, that was kind of my whole identity growing up, and everything revolved around contests and getting better in the water, and surfing like a contest, you're only really as good as your last result. So I'd say kind of the turning point for me was realizing that surfing is, like a career in surfing is short. So I really wanted to build something that could last longer, and something that was meaningful and I could grow over time. So that was kind of like that big turning point for me, was, it was usually that was in 2015, was when I kind of had that fork in the road moment, with like, all right, Byrd was taking a lot of time and attention. Surfing was, I had to put a lot of time and attention to that. So it was kind of that fork in the road moment where I was like, okay, this is something I need to kind of invest and put my single focus and effort into.
Yeah, I'm sure that probably felt hard as well.
It was, but I think I was ready for it, and I was excited, and it was a new chapter and something that, I could still obviously be involved in surf and utilize my Rolodex, in surf that I've built, like a lot of the Quiksilver guys, they're like, I tap some of the surf or their retail reps to help me kind of get into the right stores from the early days. So, like stuff like that, where I had connections and I was ready to use them.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's so nice that you had that. Okay. Well, next, you've balanced both being a professional athlete and a founder. So what has each role taught you about success?
Yeah, I'd say surfing, like kind of like I mentioned, it's definitely like an individual sport. So it's you in the ocean, and I actually think there's a similarity there with, running a business and owning your own company. Like it can feel pretty lonely at times. But I think with the difference is like with a company and building a brand, like it really teaches you how to lead. So, it's all about forming a good team and, bringing people together around a vision. So you learn how to become a better communicator and, like I said, lead. So whereas surfing, you're definitely more, it's you versus the ocean. It's an individual sport. And, you're kind of your own boss in that sense.
Totally. And then last, what's a mistake or challenge from your career that in hindsight ended up being one of your greatest teachers?
So we had when we first got into Urban Outfitters, this was really early days. We had our classic pomade, and they wanted to bring in two other products. So I guess long story short, we kind of rushed into it. And at the time we were using a tin material for our formula versus aluminum. And the two new products that we brought in were water-based. So we shipped this to Urban Outfitter stores. And about a couple of weeks later, we started seeing some of these tins rust out and like the formula rust. So it was one of those like, oh shit moments where we were like, okay, we got to kind of get in front of this. And, we took back the product and obviously switched the tins out and stuff like that. But it was definitely something where I was like, okay, like rather than rushing into something, like we got to do it right. And you kind of learn, through those challenges and those mistakes, and you kind of learn from that, and everything kind of guides you to where you are now. So I'd say like trusting your gut and going with that gut instinct is something that is always kind of like my navigator and driving force, just with everything I do.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much for doing this. This was so fun getting to talk with you, and I love getting to reconnect all these years later.
So stoked. Thanks for having me.